Very warm welcome to each one of you to today's Marine Biofuels Webinar organized by GBA. This is the third webinar from a 5-part knowledge webinar series which has been launched by GBA. These webinars are aimed at deepening engagement, sharing of global best practices, and accelerating the adoption of sustainable biofuels across sectors and regions. Our earlier webinars on SAF and biomethane have been incredibly successful with more than 200 participants. The recordings and presentations of these webinars are also available on GBA's website. Coming to this webinar, sustainable marine fuels is a topic that lies at the very heart of the maritime industry's transition towards a low carbon future. As the global shipping sector faces increasing pressure to decarbonize from regulators, cargo owners, and the public, it's clear that fuel choice is no longer a technical discussion alone, but a strategic imperative. Over the course of today's discussions, we'll delve into key themes such as global regulatory framework and policies for international shipping, regional perspective on pricing and market, means to increase the use of biofuels in the marine sector, and scientific advancements in maritime biofuels. We are especially honored to welcome our esteemed speakers, Mr. Kemi from IMO, Ms. Iris from S&P, Mr. Tom from IEA Bioenergy Task 39, and Dr. Sanjukta from TERI and IFGE, each of whom brings invaluable expertise spanning research, industry leadership, and international policy development. I encourage all the participants to engage actively, pose questions, and make full use of this platform. Let this be a step towards building a cleaner, more resilient, and inclusive energy future together. With that, let us begin today's proceedings. Thank you, Isha.
Thank you, Ms.
Over to you.
Mehta. I would now like to invite Mr. Kamil, who's been a part of the International Maritime Organization in the Marine Environment Division since almost a decade now. In his role, he assists intergovernmental negotiations on the development of the global regulatory framework and policies for international shipping on clean air and climate action. Before joining IMO, he performed operational management duties in the French Maritime Affairs Directorate, dealing with safety of navigation, search, rescue, etc. He'll be sharing perspectives on global regulatory framework and policies for international shipping and how IMO is helping us shape it. Mr. Kamil, I will leave the floor to you. In case you want, you may please present your screen and proceed.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me well?
Yes, you're audible.
Wonderful. So good day, good morning, good evening to all of you, wherever you are. And thank you very much for the invitation to speak to you today on this important topic. And I'd like to congratulate you for the leadership taken in this initiative. And as you said, things are moving fast in the shipping sector towards decarbonizing this transport sector, and the biofuels are and will play an important role. And I think in this transition that we are embarking into, the regulatory framework, and in particular the global regulatory framework set by the IMO is a cornerstone, is really a crucial part of the puzzle. So I'll now spend the next 15 or 20 or so minutes to present you an update on what's going on at the IMO on the topic, not particularly on biofuels, because we are adopting a technology or fuel neutral approach, but more widely to incentivize the use of lower carbon fuels. So let me share my screen. Just give me a second. All right. And now on presentation mode. Right. Okay. Right. So let me start with where we are today. And I was glad to hear that previous webinars focused on other sectors, such as the international aviation sector. let me start by saying that shipping is actually the most energy efficient long distance cargo transportation mode. And it's supporting the carriage of more than 80% of global trade in volume. Um, it's really a key part of our global economy, and that needs to be recalled. On the other hand, it has environmental footprint, and when talking about the greenhouse gas emissions from this sector, it represents 2 to 3% of total anthropogenic emissions. Um, Similar to international civil aviation, international maritime emissions are not addressed through nationally determined contributions because these emissions are taking place outside national jurisdiction. So they're not covered by the UNFCCC, the Paris Agreement, through the NDC alignment and the NDC approach. These are directly addressed through the IMO for shipping and through ICAO for international aviation. So this is a very crucial point. Which also explains why it is so important to put in place a global framework that is adopted at the IMO. Um, so here in London is the International Maritime Organization since 1948, and it is really the United Nations specialized technical agency mandated to regulate the international shipping sector, both from a safety, security, and environmental point of view. It currently has 76 member states, sorry, and a number of observer organizations that represent the shipping industry, seafarers, environmental NGOs, energy and technology providers, etc. We are a relatively small United Nations agency, with mostly our headquarters here in London, but also some regional offices that are mostly supporting our technical cooperation and capacity building activities. Um, we usually say that the IMO regulates over 50,000 ships trading worldwide. So this is really quite important to keep in mind that when IMO develops instruments, including binding obligations, they then are enforced globally by the member states, and they apply to virtually all um, ocean-going ships. So it's not only setting aspirational targets or ambitions, but also really mandatory binding measures, and I think that is quite unique. And we do this through instruments, legal instruments, international conventions, which are mostly of very technical nature, and the international convention dealing with the preservation of the marine environment from shipping activities is the MARPOL Convention. On greenhouse gas emissions, the member states for a number of years now have been addressing these emissions through a number of instruments. Um, but they also saw the importance of agreeing on a uh, strategic document, which would really set the framework, the policy framework for the sector and for the IMO as a whole. And this was adopted in 2023, the IMO greenhouse gas reduction strategy, which is often referred to as the Paris Agreement for shipping. It's really a crucial crucial document that um, is really setting the pathway for the shipping sector. Um, this slide presents some of the levels of ambition that have been agreed by the member states with unanimous support in 2023. To achieve net zero by around 2050 for the sector as a whole. Um, and it also envisages a number of indicative checkpoints for 2030 and 2040. So we really have a horizon and also a pathway, emissions reduction pathway for the sector that also covers energy efficiency and the uptake of low emission fuels, and that also includes biofuels. So there's an ambition to achieve 5 to 10% of the energy used by shipping to be zero or near zero emission fuels or technologies. So this is really the important framework agreed by our member states, but it's not setting mandatory obligations on individual ships. It is more of a document of yeah, a policy nature. But importantly, as I said, the work of the IMO and really an important value added of the IMO in regulating the shipping sector is in setting mandatory measures, binding measures for the vessels themselves. So there are a few important points in implementing this greenhouse gas strategy. The first one being the energy efficiency measures, because that's the easiest part to tackle, and there are still potentials for improving the energy efficiency of the shipping sector. So over the years now, and this started in 2011 already, the IMO Marine Protection Committee developed mandatory measures for new ships first. So this was an energy efficiency design index, and then for existing ships. And since 2021, there is a carbon intensity indicator rating system, which rates each ship based on its operational pattern from A to E. And there's actually a provision in this regulation, the CII, that incentivizes the use of biofuels, sustainable biofuels, to achieve a better rating. But there are actually many other technologies and approaches and technologies, fuels, etc., solutions to achieve compliance with these different regulations. It's really a technology neutral and fuel neutral approach. All of this is based on robust data collection, and we're now actually analyzing the fuel oil consumption data from all ships from last year. So every year, ships have to collect their fuel consumption. There's a monitoring system, verification, and this is the basis of the regulation, the policy making. Now, we all the projections show that energy efficiency alone will not be sufficient to achieve the emission targets of the IMO, including the net zero by 2050. So there needs to be a shift to alternative fuels, including biofuels, and so this is where this new package of measures enters into play, called the IMO Net Zero Framework. When the strategy was adopted in 2023, the IMO member states already agreed to adopt a basket of measures with both a technical and an economic element, the technical element being a fuel standard and the economic element being a greenhouse gas emissions pricing mechanism. And there was an agreement, a high-level agreement to develop this measure, and now the timeline is we're really um, in the middle of this process, where the draft amendments to the MARPOL Convention were approved in spring, and the Marine Environment Protection Committee will meet in October to consider these draft amendments for formal adoption. And if these amendments are adopted as expected, they will enter into force in 2027. The shift to lower carbon fuels in the bigger picture of the shipping transition towards net zero is important, in particular in the early years, and I had a look at the latest DNV, which is an important classification society for shipping. Latest DNV projections show that 25 to 30 million tons of oil equivalent of low emission fuels will be needed in 2030 for shipping only. So these are very significant volumes, and in order for these volumes to really um, uh, see an uptake in marine fuel markets, you need a strong regulatory incentive. So this net zero framework, which was, as I said, approved in spring and which will be hopefully adopted in October, is based on both a fuel standard, uh, where the greenhouse gas fuel intensity is calculated on the basis of the well-to-wake emissions, so a full life cycle approach. And the under-compliant ships will have to purchase remedial units in order to balance their compliance deficit. This will generate an economic mechanism and a revenue, which will then be re-injected to for a reward for the use of zero or near zero fuels or technologies such as biofuels, um, and also for the energy transition projects more generally in shipping. Um, so this framework is also introducing a framework for certification of sustainable fuels, which still has to be further developed in the coming months and years, and also will mandate the creation of a fund to manage the revenue. Um, so it's if this is adopted in October, it would become the first global regulatory framework to combine a fuel standard and a greenhouse gas emissions pricing mechanism across an entire industry. So very hopeful that this framework will be adopted and will become mandatory for all ships from 2028, because this will really provide the certainty that the shipping sector, but also the fuel producers require. Another important part of the implementation of the strategies is the fuel sustainability assessment framework. I'll run quickly through this because I understand there's a speaker from the IEA bioenergy team later on, which is definitely directly relevant in this context. We have LCA guidelines, but also building upon expertise from other sectors and from the energy sector in particular. But the IMO member states uh, required the establishment of an expert group to actually review the, um, the emission values for different fuels. So we're keeping this fuel neutrality, but still with a need to actually put an emission tag or figure to set up default values, and then there will be the possibility to certify actual emission values that are um, of higher performance than the default value. And as part of this certification framework is a number of sustainability themes, um, from spanning from GHG to land use change, water conservation, etc., etc. Safety, I'll go quickly through this, but it's a crucial part of also the work at the IMO, where safety is deeply rooted in our DNA to ensure safe navigation. So on the use of liquid biofuels like FAME and HVO, there is already a wide set of rules that apply today, and actually on a daily basis, the international shipping sector is already using um, a number of these biofuels, including for blends. Um, but work is also going on for other fuels that are a bit further away from the conventional fuels that are used by shipping today. In particular, hydrogen-based fuels, ammonia, methanol, etc. So we need a full-fledged safety framework, including a training framework for seafarers to be able to use these alternative fuels and technologies. And we actually have um, um, 2 weeks of negotiations next week and the week after on instruments for the safety of ships using hydrogen as a fuel. I wanted before closing to draw your attention to this the IMO Future Fuels and Technology project, which is a very useful tool to provide up-to-date information on things like fuel uptake, fuel supply, etc. It's a very fast-moving environment in shipping, and I think it's worth really. We see an importance to share the information to the widest possible audience, helping also the countries setting their strategies, their energy priorities, etc. So yeah, as I hope you noticed, the implementation of the strategy requires continuous efforts on various fronts, and it's fuels, but not only fuels. It's energy efficiency, it's safety provisions, it's increased technical cooperation. It's a very wide range of efforts from the IMO and its member states today, and actually the shipping sector itself. IMO will continue to lead the global coordinated action on that, and we're hopeful that by October our Marine Environment Protection Committee will be able to adopt this net zero framework to further accelerate the transition to lower carbon fuels. Today, and I just wanted to conclude with this sign of, both realism and hope is the fact that currently only 7% of ships currently in operation can operate on alternative fuels. But when you look into the order book, so the ships of the future, and you know that the lifespan of a ship can be even in some cases beyond 15 to 20 years. Um, in this order book, actually 1 out of 2 ships, 50% of the order book is made of ships that can operate on alternative fuels. So there are a number of fuels of choice. LNG is the first one, but things like methanol, ammonia are gaining more and more traction. And as I said, with biofuels, they're currently already in use as a blend, different ratio of blend, but they're currently very well present in the shipping energy mix, and we expect this to increase in the future thanks to the increased regulatory pressure. With that, I thank you for your attention, and I'm available if there's any question or comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Camille. This was very, very helpful. I think from GBA's end, we'd be very happy to partner with you on, doing consultations on the sustainability standards, sharing our expertise with you as well. And we thoroughly support your mandate of moving towards alternate fuels, because we believe that, this is one of the few ways we can move to a truly net zero world. I would love to connect with you post the webinar and see how we can work together on truly implementing your mandate. I would urge all the participants who have questions to please put them in the Q&A. Post the next session, we will take all the questions. I would now like to invite Ms. Iris, who is an associate price reporter at S&P Global Commodity Insights under the biofuels and feedstocks team, and specializes in the Singapore biobunkers market and associated upstream feedstock markets. She holds a degree in materials sciences and engineering and has experience in maritime sustainability roles. With an analytical background and prior experience, she currently provides valuable insights on spot market pricing and market developments in the Asian biobunker markets. Today, she'll be talking about or giving us a regional perspective on pricing and a market update on Asia biobunkers. Iris, thank you for joining us here, and I would now hand over the floor to you. Thank you.
Yeah, Thank you so much to the GBA for inviting me to speak on the webinar. And thank you, Camille, for the very insightful presentation earlier. And I think that really sets the tone for my presentation. Just let me know when my screen is visible.
It's visible, Alice. We can, maybe you want to go to slideshow mode. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So thank you everyone for attending the webinar, and thank you so much for the invitation again to speak. So I think for this session, I will be highlighting a bit more about some of the spot pricing trends and market updates for Singapore biobunkers or marine biofuels specifically. I am an associate price reporter with S&P Global Commodity Insights, sitting with the biofuels and feedstocks team. So, as I mentioned, I think Camille did a very good presentation sharing about the IMO's developments for alternative fuels, and biobunkers or marine biofuels is one of a popular option for many ship owners to decarbonize. And I think it really does show that the market is developing so much to the point that the reason why I can have this presentation here and share about spot pricing is because the market has developed so much and there's much more liquidity for biobunkers now in the market. So I wouldn't go too much into this because I think the previous presentation has covered a lot of it. But one of the you could broadly categorize two categories of key demand drivers for marine biofuels as voluntary demand and regulatory demand. And for voluntary demand, we see that a lot of it Singapore actually sees quite a lot of this because many, say for example, consumer-facing container shipping lines, they may have internal company targets to decarbonize ESG goals, and they would choose biobunkers as a means of decarbonization. And you also see that yes, the IMO has also pushed for global maritime decarbonization in recent years. So the CII, the carbon intensity indicator, is one of the common demand drivers that ship owners mentioned to me. They are aiming to improve their CII rating from, say, for vessels with E or D rating to C and above. And they could do so by taking, say, 24% biofuel blended biobunkers, or B24, or even higher biofuel concentration blends like B30 and even B100. And we also see that in future, one of the main key demand drivers for biobunkers would be the IMO Net Zero framework, which is due for adoption possibly in October this year. And on a more regional scale, we also see that the EU has certain regulations that also promotes the use of biobunkers. So Fuel EU Maritime, which was implemented from this year onwards, also sets certain progressive targets to decarbonize the fleet. And this has also contributed to increased demand for biobunkers this year. And previously also, the EU Emissions Trading System, or EU ETS, also covered maritime emissions from last year onwards. So we do see that regionally, for some regions, such as the EU, there has been also a very strong push to adopt biobunkers in shipping. So I think with all of these regulations and many methods to decarbonize, why choose biobunkers or marine biofuels? So we see that compared to, say, LNG, methanol, ammonia, biofuels its advantage is in how it's a drop-in alternative fuel. It can be used on existing engines and does not require additional capex or additional infrastructure to be invested in before you can use marine biofuels. And say, for example, if they were using biofuel feedstock like used cooking oil methyl ester, which comes from used cooking oil, a waste-based feedstock, they could actually achieve a minimum of 84% greenhouse gas emission savings as stated on their proof of sustainability. So that actually achieves quite a significant emissions reduction for them if they choose to use marine biofuels. So I think now zooming into arguably one of the world's largest market for biobunkers, Singapore, which is also the main market that I cover, we do see that demand has been growing over the years. Since 2022, volumes have picked up very significantly. Last year, Singapore saw around 18, almost 1,000,000 metric tons, 800,000 metric tons of biobunker sales. And we also noticed that the demand tends to pick up towards the end of the year, closer to the regulatory reporting deadlines. So what we observed this year was a bit special in a sense that we saw it seems to be quite some front loading of the demand in the first half of this year for Singapore. And we see that actually demand has been quite stable from the last quarter last year in the first half of this year. And also demand has definitely picked up from last year as well. So currently from January to June, actually in fact from now till July, the numbers have been out, and we see that actually this year's numbers from January to July have already overtaken the full 2024 numbers for in terms of biobunker sales. So definitely this year we see that demand has gone up, partially driven by a few EU maritime being implemented starting from this year. And also I think other reasons that we have heard is that last year there was many ship owners started reporting their CII rating, and for their vessels, the older vessels, for example, which do not meet the rating of C or above, they would have a greater push to take more marine biofuels this year to meet their CII compliance. So I think why initially I mentioned that Singapore is arguably the largest biobunkering hub in the world now is because we actually started to see this trend where Singapore appears to be overtaking Rotterdam, which was the largest biobunkering hub in the world from 2021 all the way to 2023. But from last year onwards, we saw that actually Singapore exceeded Rotterdam's annual biobunker sales. And this year, for the first half of this year, we saw that actually Singapore's marine biofuel sales were actually around 5 times that of Rotterdam. So some of the market participants that I spoke to actually expect that this could be a continuing trend where Singapore remains as the top biobunkering hub globally due to cost competitiveness coming from the bio component side. So for Singapore, a lot of the biofuel component is actually used cooking oil methyl ester coming from China, and it is relatively affordable compared to the biodiesel options that we see in Europe. So that has actually led to a cost advantage in a sense for Singapore biobunker blenders. And in terms of pricing, that has also attracted some demand to Singapore as well. So this is some data from our S&P Global Commodity Insights analytics team. And we do see that the tightening regulatory compliance, especially from 2028 onwards, if the IMO net zero framework is adopted, would push for stronger biobunkers growth in Singapore and in other parts of the world as well. So already in other ports, we also, apart from Singapore and Rotterdam, we also see that there has been increased biobunkering activity. So in Europe, we see that in the Med, there has been some demand coming from cruise ships. And in the Middle East, we see that ports like Fujairah, Khor Fakkan, and Jebel Ali have also offered blends like B24, B30 for ship owners who are keen to decarbonize and have routes passing through the Middle East. And within Asia, we see that China is also a up-and-coming biobunkering hub. So currently for China, as they do not have a biobunker blending policy, they are unable to use their domestic use cooking oil, methyl ester supply, and their domestic fuel oil cargoes to supply B24. But what they're doing now is that they're actually taking the blended product from Hong Kong and from Singapore and supplying it in China, because actually, say ports like Zhoushan are very big bunkering hubs, and ship owners are also keen to lift biobunkers from there. And in Southeast Asia, we also see that Indonesia has B40 mandate. So there are B40 blends available for domestic consumption, for domestic marine consumption as well. And in North Asia, we see that Japan also has a B24 supply. And in Korea as well, there has been a demonstration period for selected bunker suppliers where they will be blending B30 for international shipping as well. So as for pricing, I think we many of us know that what is one of the key obstacles to greater adoption for marine biofuels is actually the price. So the bio component, which for Singapore is typically UCOME, used cooking oil methyl ester, is more than 2 times the price of conventional fuel oil. So that is what's contributing to that huge premium. Say, for example, even if you're just blending 24% biofuel, that also leads to a premium of currently, for the current spot market, around plus $200 per metric ton. So it is a significant cost for many ship owners to bear, and who are they going to pass this cost to is also another concern for on their part. So we do see that that the premium is quite a big obstacle for many of these ship owners when it comes to adopting biofuels in shipping. And in terms of the spot pricing trends, we do see that actually the spread between B24 biobunkers and conventional bunkers has widened over this year from Q3 last year, and that's actually because maybe this chart would be actually easier, would be more clear. On the left, we have the spot premium over fuel oil for a B24 blend. We see that actually last year, actually some of the prices were artificially depressed by Singapore biobunker suppliers to gain market share. And also at that period of time, the EU actually imposed anti-dumping duties on Chinese biodiesel imports, and that significantly weakened the demand for UCOME in China. And eventually, a lot of the excess supply was actually diverted to Singapore instead for biobunker blending. So we saw at a period of time, price levels were very depressed, and actually premiums were actually quite cheap. It was like in a plus $120 per metric ton level compared to the $200 per metric ton that we see now in terms of premiums. So so you might have noticed that over Q1 this year, the premium actually spiked up a lot. So what caused this sharp increase in price over the first half of this year was actually due to remember how I mentioned that there was the anti-dumping duties imposed on Chinese biodiesel imports from August last year, provisional anti-dumping duties. So because of this, it affected demand for China UCOME a lot, and many factories actually closed down, which tightened supply afterwards and pushed up prices, while the demand for Singapore biobunkers was still good because many of them were rushing to meet their regulatory compliance deadlines and buying B24. So that pushed up prices in Q4 last year up to Q1 this year, and we see that prices have remained elevated because more recently we are already starting to see that feedstock competition coming from the aviation side. Used cooking oil or UCO prices in China have actually gone up significantly in recent months due to good demand coming from the sustainable aviation fuel side. So UCO is actually it is a feedstock that goes into SAF production as well, sustainable aviation fuel, and not just UCOME biodiesel that goes into biobunkers. So I think some of the concerns, like future concerns that many ship owners and market participants for marine biofuels, market participants they have is that we might see a feedstock competition issue and feedstock supply issue in future due to as many industries want to decarbonize, right? And for sustainable aviation fuel, which is typically also produced from UCO, is one of the very few ways that they can decarbonize. Unlike for marine, we have other alternative fuels like LNG and ammonia and methanol. So this feedstock competition, we're already starting to see some of it now. So UCO prices went up a lot. The higher feedstock price has indeed translated into higher UCOME prices and higher B24 biobunker prices in Singapore as well. But I think even though there's all this talk about how there could be supply constraints and supply issues for marine biofuels, I think in the short term, marine biofuels still offer it's still one of the most popular options to decarbonize for the maritime sector now, as you could say that it is comparatively affordable compared to the other lower carbon alternatives that we see, like ammonia and methanol, which are not exactly ready, and there are still safety concerns, infrastructure concerns. So marine biofuels still offer a very popular option for all these ship owners to decarbonize. As I mentioned, they could achieve more than 80% GHG savings, and also they could be used as a drop-in fuel on existing engines without any significant technical concerns. So over here on this slide, actually Platts has made, S&P has made a bunker fuel cost calculator comparing conventional fuels and alternative fuels. If you're interested, you could also have a look and see how it compares in terms of dollar per energy unit as well. And I think with that, I will end my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions, and also feel free to connect, and we can always discuss more on the biobunkers market. Thank you.
Thank you, Iris. This was very, very helpful. I think there were a bunch of questions. Camille, if you're still here, I think we have a bunch of questions for you as well. I'll start with one that Mr. Perella has to Camille. Camille, do I have you with me? Yes, great.
Yes, of course.
So Mr. Perella asked that when you speak about LNG and not about, why do you speak about LNG and not about bio-LNG, that is renewable sources from biomethane? The results in terms of reduction of CO2 will be completely different for bio-LNG respect fossil LNG. So I think it would make sense to have a look at bio-LNG. Do you think that will be possible?
Yeah, thank you for the question. And just to clarify, we in the IMO framework, we do not mandate, and our member states do not mandate or prescribe the use of certain fuels. We don't have a list of fuels that are eligible, and it's again, it's a performance-based standard. Both the current and the future regulations, and I think Iris was quite clear in referring both to the CII and the Net Zero framework. Both schemes have the same fuel neutral or fuel agnostic approach. We don't particularly prescribe the use of certain fuels. What is quite clear from all the projections and the modeling that has been done in support of IMO developments is that there will be a need for a diverse energy mix, both in the short and in the longer term. And today, LNG is indeed part of the shipping energy mix, 5 to 6% of current energy consumption in shipping. But as soon as bio-LNG comes into the market, I am quite confident that the shipping industry will also be looking into this option. And I know that some of the reasons why a number of ship owners are betting today or investing in LNG fueled or LNG ready ships is precisely the fact that these ships will also be able to use bio LNG and potentially even e-LNG in the more distant future. So yeah, we're not ranking the fuels or promoting one particular type of feedstock or fuel pathway. What's very important is the need to establish a uniform life cycle assessment framework that enables a fair comparison between fuels in terms of their sustainability and ensuring a level playing field in the implementation of the regulation. And so the focus is really on the greenhouse gas fuel intensity for the net zero framework. That's really what this is really how you will be able to assess the fuels, and each fuel will have a greenhouse gas fuel intensity index, should we say, or tag, and based on that, the ship may be able to either blend or use some part of these fuels, or purchase surplus units from other ships. I mean, it's a relatively complex compliance framework, but that is both um, realistic, that's acknowledging the diversity of compliance options, but that's also, yes, ensuring flexibility as to how to achieve net zero by around 2050, keeping also, you know, the possibility of innovating in various fuel processes that maybe we don't know yet today. So we're setting the performance standards, but then how to get there and which options to adopt will be for the industry to decide.
Thank you, Camille. That is very, very helpful. I think, Iris, Camille, I think either of you could answer this question on what is the shipping industry's opinion on doing offtake of truly green ammonia using only water, air, and solar as a feedstock, because players are finding it difficult to have offtake in the shipping sectors. Uh,
Yeah, so what we're seeing is also that indeed some companies are already working on offtake agreements, long-term offtake agreements, precisely because they're struggling to actually supply sufficient quantities of, for example, e-methanol. Um, I think we're really at the beginning of this transition, and that's where most likely in the short term, drop in fuels like biodiesel will play a role. But in the longer run, yes, all the pathway and emissions pathway and fuel production show that you need a significant amount of synthetic fuels as well to achieve the net zero target. Um, so, and indeed today, under the current market conditions, the the price gap is too wide for these projects to actually be cost competitive, and this is where the net zero framework approved in spring and hopefully adopted in October can really help in reducing this cost gap and providing the certainty uh, for the for the fuel producers that there will be a market. It will send a very hopefully strong demand signal for from this sector, from the shipping sector, um, uh, which has a lot of which brings a lot of opportunities as well. I think that's the message I wanted to say, because you have in the shipping sector, you have a sector that is one global, so it's a big market. It's large volumes that, and actually I think Iris hinted to that, but the bunkering market is quite um, um, how to say, it's there are a few, it's quite concentrated in a way. That there are a few bunkering locations like Singapore or Rotterdam, and they're taking a huge share actually of the bunkering activity in ocean going ships. So it's a big sector. It's a sector that has long-term visibility, and and with a clear regulatory framework in place, with a solid implementation provisions as well, I think you have a number of elements that will hopefully help sending a clear demand signal, and then it will be and it is already today for fuel suppliers to start to start increasing the production and working on the supply with uh, with uh, with um, with fuel suppliers, with the bunkering industry and with the shipping industry itself. So it's uh, and this is true for the biofuels today, and it will also be true for the e-fuels later on the journey.
Thanks, Camille. That's a very, very comprehensive answer, I think, from your end. I think I I think a couple of questions for you. Do you have insights on the type of offtake agreements that biofuel developers typically sign with shipping companies? Are these usually long term or short term? And what are the typical pricing models that are adopted?
Yeah, I think thanks for the question, first of all. And I would assume that for biofuel developers, it would mean suppliers of marine biofuels or blended marine biofuels, biobunkers. For them, I suppose you're asking, is there sufficient market liquidity now that and sufficient demand that they are interested to take long-term offtake agreements, say for example, term contracts over few months rather than just taking it on the spot market, as they may be more interested to do it on a trial basis. So what we see for Singapore is that it has already developed from trials that were typically done last year, 2 years ago, and now the ship owners are already keen to actually take or shipping companies are already keen to actually take longer term offtake contracts. They are fixing term contracts with these biobunker suppliers. Many of them are done on a quarterly basis, half a year basis. So I think for many of these shipping companies, they have already set their decarbonization targets in advance based on what regulations what compliance compliance requirements they have, and what are their internal company targets. So they already know how much biobunkers they want to take, and they are taking it through all of these quarterly half year offtake agreements, term contracts in that sense. Yeah. And how they're pricing it, how are they pricing it? Actually, they're pricing it in a very similar way to conventional bunkers as well. So currently for Singapore, it's a lot of it's blended biobunkers. So 76% of it is actually still conventional fuel oil, and they're actually pricing in a very similar manner to conventional bunkers actually. So in Singapore, we have the MOPS Plus premium pricing, the Mean of Platts Singapore pricing, and it's essentially a premium over the FOB fuel oil cargo price. And they're actually doing it, many of them are doing it in a very similar manner. So for them, it's actually, you could see that as an extension of bunkers actually for many of these supply market participants.
Thanks. I think one more question for you is what biofuels do you think will be most important in the near term and then in the next decade and then the next 2 decades?
Yeah, so I think what we already see now is that used cooking oil is a very popular upstream feedstock for biofuels used in biobunkers now, given that it is a waste-based feedstock and it allows you to achieve that higher GHG savings as compared to, say, previously when they were I think Singapore was more reliant on palm oil methyl ester, which is is essentially a crop-based feedstock that comes from many of the major palm producers in Southeast Asia, like Malaysia and Indonesia. But we see that gradually we are moving away from such crop-based feedstocks, these first-generation feedstocks, because there is a lot of associated say for example land use change and other things that kind of not it's not exactly a very sustainable feedstock after all. And I think the EU has also been quite against it. Certain countries have been quite against it. So Singapore has actually moved into waste-based feedstock like used cooking oil methyl ester. And I think for Rotterdam, what we see now is that they are also using rapeseed oil methyl ester, soybean oil methyl ester as well, and they are able to actually blend the different feedstocks to achieve a tailored or customized GHG savings for their buyers actually. But for Singapore, it's predominantly used cooking oil methyl ester, and we do see that there has been a lot of exploration and discovery of different types of feedstocks, given that we know that there in future there would be a feedstock supply problem. So there's a lot of exploration of different types of feedstocks, and now we are also seeing that other waste-based feedstocks like palm oil meal effluent or POME is also becoming an option that some, let's say, the aviation sector is considering, and in future the marine sector may also consider blending into biobunkers.
Got it. I think I'll twist the question a little bit for Camille. Which biofuel do you think will be more important in terms of, let's say, LNG versus ammonia versus methanol? which one do you think, or biodiesel, which one do you think will emerge as a stronger answer, or what, and how do you think it will shape in the next few years versus the next decade or 2 decades?
So I think so. The question is for me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. I mean, to the risk of repeating myself, I think it's well, I don't have a crystal ball, and the from a regulator perspective, although there are a number of submissions to the IMO from our member states, from industry associations that show different, different modeling of and possible energy mixes, taking into account, likely costs or and supply volumes, etc., etc. Um, it's really at this stage it's extremely risky to bet on from my side here in London on one particular fuel. What I think is that in the short term, the e-fuels, synthetic fuels, are likely not going to be ready to a sufficient scale for the sector. And that's why, because of the short-term emission targets, there needs to be options ready that are drop-in, and that's where a number of the biofeedstock that have been mentioned today will play a role. They may still play a role in the longer run, but the further you go into the future, the more uncertain is the projection. I think what has been what is now more widely understood in the shipping sector is that because of because of marine propulsion technology, it actually allows quite a wide variety of fuels to be used, provided they correspond to a number of specifications in terms of fuel stability, in terms of safety, etc., etc. But you can in these large marine diesel engines, you can burn quite many different possible substances, and which for the shipping sector is a good news. It means there are more options than aviation, for example, in terms of technology. So sorry if I'm not able to
No,
respond
that's
more
perfectly
specifically
fine.
to this question. Yeah.
I would expect a politically calibrated answer from you nonetheless.
But and just to say, because yeah, it's definitely a question for the ship owners themselves especially when they invest in new builds now. But I would really want to, and this is our constant message, to encourage continuous investments in ships that are future ready, in the sense that that will be, and because of the likely diversity in the fuel mix, dual fuel technology is yeah, I think is most likely going to be more and more common in the future, and it is already more and more common when you look into the order book. So some sort of flexibility that is coming into marine propulsion technology today.
Fair. Camille, Iris, I think we are at time for questions. I would urge you to look at the questions in the chat, and please answer them if you could. I would now like to, and I thank both of you for your patience for answering these questions and joining us today. I would
Thank
now
you.
like to invite Mr. Tom Walsh, who is Ireland's representative at IEA Bioenergy Task 39 and CEO of Renetec Bioresources Limited. Biofuels to Decarbonize Transport is a group of international experts working to increase use of and to commercialize sustainable transportation fuels. He will be speaking about how we can lower barriers to maritime fuels and identifying means to increase the use of biofuels in the marine sector. Mr. Walsh, your screen is visible. Unfortunately, we can see the notes screen. I think you may want to flip the screen that is being presented.
Yeah.
No, I think it's. It's okay.
No, because you.
Mr. Walsh, do you want us to project?
Is it okay now?
Yes, it's okay now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry about that. Thank you also to the two previous speakers. Very happy to be here today to talk on an important topic in terms of maritime biofuels. And the subject of our remarks today will be very much based around the report, Lowering Hindrance for Maritime Biofuels, Identifying Means to Increase the Use of Biofuels in the Marine Sector, which was launched in April of this year. And I appreciate very much the previous comments. And obviously, we see a number of trends in the market in terms of the demand is going up, regulation is requiring more, and that's both in many sectors, including the maritime sector and the aviation sector. And we saw in the pricing there earlier how that is actually having an impact. I think we'll cover a number of points in the next little while. We'll take a look at the full value chain, all the ways from the feedstock and what's happening in terms of the feedstock through to the demand and the user and the processing. Spend less on the regulatory side, since that it has been discussed quite a bit at length and very much appreciated, and bring in some innovation and some case studies as we're going through. So as was mentioned, going to net zero by 2050. Just interesting to know that in the case of shipping, 40% of all shipping in terms of volume, in terms of trade, is actually shipping coal, oil and gas. So as we increase the energy efficiency and also the use of the biofuels, obviously we also have a double impact, because we will reduce the volume of fossil fuels that we are shipping around the world. So that's a kind of a, if you like, a hidden benefit. The report is available on the Task 39 IEA bioenergy website. And I should say that there is about 18 countries that are actively part of biofuels for decarbonisation of transport. So it's quite representative of both north and south, and also east and west. In terms of the formulation of this report, we did try to consult extensively with an expert reference group, which represented industry players all the ways from the sourcing of the feedstock through to the processing of the actual feedstock itself, and also different distribution issues, and not least the shippers themselves, and in terms of Stena and also Maersk. And indeed, there's a nice, interesting case study from the Port of Singapore, which is also part of the report, which tells you about all the interesting different developments that they are engaged with from a biofuel perspective. And obviously, as was mentioned by the two previous speakers, the demand is going up. So availability and scalability are two pressing issues that people are very concerned about. And this applies at, I would say, all elements of the value chain, starting with the biomass. And we've mentioned a number of waste feedstocks that are doing the drop-in fuels in terms of B24 and biodiesel. But obviously, there's still a lot of research that is being done around lignocellulosic biomass for the future. So for sure, people both in the maritime industry and also in the airline industry are looking for what are the different options that we have in terms of producing new types of biofuel. And certainly from our perspective in terms of the report formulation in the maritime sector, they are looking at all options in terms of the different types of biofuels, and that even goes for ethanol, which is a kind of a nascent use of fuel in the maritime sector today, but there's still research going on from an engine perspective and so on to actually get to see how that can be used. But from a greenhouse gas reduction and a sustainability perspective, obviously the waste feedstocks and the use of those waste feedstocks in an efficient way, whether it's used cooking oil or palmy residues, is obviously preferred, and in addition to the next generation feedstocks. And so just to mention a bit about innovation and the innovation ladder, and this is in some way how it's represented here in terms of beaker to bucket to barrel to bunker. And obviously, when you come to the maritime sector, what's very important really is what they're interested in is, what can you give me in terms of barrels and, as we heard earlier, bio bunkers. So scale is a very key issue. The volumes are huge. Mentioned earlier also was that it's a few ports that the sector is very concentrated in, and I would say that Singapore being the number one port in the world in terms of volume, and also is very active on all aspects of different types of biofuel, including looking at ammonia as a use in shipping going forward, and conducted extensive trials and safety trials in the past 12 months, 15 months. But at the same time, in terms of innovation, we do need to focus on new feedstocks, new processes to increase the availability and the scalability. And that goes back to the research institutes from beaker to bucket. And that applies, from a technology perspective and also a feedstock perspective. I think we estimated that based on the 2030 targets in terms of the regulation that is proposed, there would need to be just in supply an additional investment of about $8 billion in order to meet the volumes that are required in terms of the increased demand in terms of biofuel. So sustainability, availability, and scalability, I think this is a framework that we use in terms of marine biofuels evaluation. And we do see that the report, which was published this year, we will be releasing a number of case studies around the different biofuel feedstocks, using this as a framework that can guide the industry, but also can, if you like, spark debate. And as was mentioned, there are different ways in terms of how you measure the greenhouse gas emissions, depending on the feedstock and the process and the use. And there are new options emerging. There are new processes. Here we show two in terms of catalysis, biogas to methanol or green methanol, and also the use of electrolysis to produce methanol for shipping. And this is an area that is growing quite rapidly in terms of the methanol use in the shipping area in the maritime sector. Some players committing quite significantly to it. Maersk, for example, in terms of the number of ships that they also have on order in terms of dual fuel. Of course, we should bear in mind that there is a difference between fossil and biofuels as well in terms of the energy density on a per litre basis. And this is quite a useful slide that indicates, in terms of the different existing marine fuels that are used and how does that compare from a density perspective. And obviously this is a management issue from a shipping perspective as well. And it tends to be that your volumes are obviously greater from a fuel perspective when you start to use the biofuels. So therefore, we do see that the any activities in relation to energy efficiency in terms of improving, whether it's hull cleaning or whether it's the use of sails or whether it's slow steaming, all of those, and you can get 7 and 8% or even 15% improvements in terms of less use of fuel. It does mean that you get a carbon reduction, but you also make a greater use of each litre of biofuel, which is quite important. So this is how the renewable fuel market looks today in terms of volume, but I think you saw some figures earlier as well on that. The largest ports from a bunkering perspective, Singapore by a long shot is the biggest. It does about over 50 million tons on a million metric tons on an annual basis. And Rotterdam then is close to 10. So it's as mentioned, is quite concentrated, which has an advantage because you can also when you have large volumes, you get benefits and synergies in terms of both drop-in fuels and also the experimental phase and innovation phase in terms of trying new technologies. Another interesting innovation, if you like, is the adoption of the green corridors, which has been on the go now for a number of years. And for example, between Singapore and Rotterdam, and this encourages both alignment in terms of standards and investments, but also looking at new approaches in terms of shipping so as to reduce the carbon intensity on a per kilometer basis. Just to say a little bit about the program of work from Task 39 perspective, it is quite a broad program, and it does cover the different areas, both biofuels for heavy duty transportation. This is quite a busy slide, but also maritime and the airline industry. Just to mention some of the areas that are we talked about LNG earlier, but obviously biogas and liquefied biogas is starting to be used as well in the maritime sector. This is both trials in terms of Viking Line as well, and also in the Rotterdam Singapore Green and Digital Shipping Corridor. So we do see that this is one fuel that has a role to play as well, because it's you don't need to have ship modification, because it's an area that's already being used from a LNG perspective. Bioethanol is less used today, but it's an area that is being researched and looked at, and there has been trials done by Varstella in terms of the use of it, and we do see that it will be an area that will develop in terms of the fuel, an available fuel and a scalable fuel going forward as another option for the maritime industry. And likewise with the e-fuels and e-methanol, quite a number of announcements have been made in this area in terms of producing e-methanol and different sources of e-methanol as well. And there's even new types of technology that is capturing landfill gas and producing methanol as a fuel use. So this particular area, while it may not make a difference in terms of availability and scalability in up to 2030, I think it can make a contribution post 2030 to 2040 in terms of volume availability. Just an example here in terms of Norwegian company Havila Voyages that have both got into the LNG and liquefied biogas area, and combining it with some battery technology to reduce the volume of fuel that they're actually using. And some people, well, are sales coming back? Well, interestingly, there is currently 52 seagoing ships now in operation, which are using different types of sail propulsion or wind propulsion. And there's actually 97 new builds that are on order, and typically you can see a 7 to 10% reduction in fuel consumption. So I think going forward, both biofuels combined with energy efficiency has a lot to offer. Then we mentioned Maersk investing in dual fuel methanol vessels. Has taken delivery of 18, and with many more that are in order. And obviously, it's not just the investment in new types of ships; it's the whole value chain back to getting the availability of the actual fuel. And here you see a collaboration between sun gas renewables and C2X to increase the availability of the methanol fuel. So just to summarize in terms of the key recommendations, I would say is that given the changes in regulation and what the ambitions are in terms of the maritime sector, the availability and scalability and sustainability are key in terms of getting sufficient volumes of feedstock, getting new types of processes, and the sustainability of each. We do see that the innovation and commercialization policy in terms of bucket to barrel is bucket to barrel to bunker is very important to the maritime sector, and that it will be a combination of biofuels, energy efficiency, and electric batteries combination that will produce the best results. I'd like to thank you for giving us the time to talk here today, and also I would like to acknowledge all the contributors to the report who helped us on this journey. And it's a great pleasure to speak here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. This has been very, very insightful for all of us. I would now like to invite Dr. Sanjukta Subhuti, who is a microbiologist and currently serves as a senior fellow and associate director of the Microbial Biofuels and Biochemicals area in the Advanced Biofuels Division at the Energy and Resources Institute. She is also an honorary member of the Indian Federation of Green Energy. Her research focuses on the microbial production of a range of biofuels such as biohydrogen, biomethane, bioethanol, and biobutanol using both first generation and second generation feedstocks. She will focus her presentation today on the Indian maritime biofuel landscape and scientific advancements in the maritime biofuel sector. Dr. Sanjukta, thank you for joining us today, and the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It is a great pleasure to speak at this Global Biofuel Alliance. Thank you very much to our previous speakers. My presentation will be focusing on different perspectives. So I will be focusing first the India's biofuel landscape. Let me know. I'm not able to move my slides. So my presentation will focus on the green initiatives and taken just I'm not able to move my slides.
Dr. Subhuti, would you like us to present? We're happy to.
Yeah, should I try it once more? Yeah.
Yes, please. It is visible to us.
But still I'm not able to move it.
Let me present then in that case. I'm happy to navigate based on your request. Does that work? Okay, great. Just give me a moment. I'll present my screen. Is my screen visible to you?
Are you able to move it?
Yes, I am.
But I cannot see it.
It's not visible to you?
No, not visible to me. I'm not able to see the slides moving.
Do you want me to go to the next slide? Can you now see it moving?
Yes. No, I cannot see. It is not moving. Just a minute.
Give me a moment.
Should I log out and log in?
Yeah, maybe that would help.
Maybe I did not get the right. I'm sorry for the glitch, technical glitch.
It is visible to us, Dr. Subhuti. Are you using two screens by any chance?
Oh, probably.
You may want to disconnect one screen and let us share, and you may keep your video off and your audio on. Would that work?
Yeah, I'm trying it again. Sorry for the glitch. Yeah.
No, that's completely fine. I'm sharing my screen. Do let me know in case it was visible to you.
Yeah, it's visible. Thank you so much.
Great, sure.
So move to the previous slide, please. I will be focusing mainly briefly about the green initiatives undertaken at our institute and the Indian maritime landscape and the net zero goal. And I will also be highlighting the list of drop-in biofuels. And going forward, the green initiatives undertaken by Indian maritime sector for adoption of biofuels and proactive actions taken by MOPSW DGS for harmonizing the standards in coordination with the Bureau of Indian Standard. So move to the next slide, please. Yeah, the Energy and Resources Institute, TERI, is a think tank. Considering the country's net zero goal, TERI's cutting-edge innovations are focusing mostly on the diverse portfolio of this green shipping, biofuels, climate change, air quality, and the water. The advanced biofuel research at TERI, move to the next slide, please, is focusing on the technology development and demonstration of liquid and gaseous biofuels by following different pathways, whether it is biochemical pathway, biothermochemical pathway, and we are also focusing on the use of diverse feedstock because feedstock are playing a key role for production of biofuel through different pathways. So it is apparent that we should focus on different first, second, and third generation raw materials. Move to the next, please. As we know that India has a very long coastline spanning across 7,500 kilometers with several major ports and 200 non-major ports, making it India as one of the largest maritime nations. Countries around 90% of trade volume is being done by sea, and which highlights a very significant contribution of India's economic growth. And India going forward has taken very proactive measures to under these different programs, mission programs like Sagarmala program, National Waterway Act, inland vessels, and to foster this development in this India's maritime sector. Having this strategic geographic position, India is also aspiring to be a global shipping and logistic hub, and also aims at serving as a gateway for trade gateway for Asia and beyond. Total maritime fuel consumption for this trade in India accounts for around 1.24 million tons of marine fuels that comprises all different type of fuels. Having said that, it is heavy fuel oil, marine diesel oil, and marine gaseous oil. The total demand of all these fuels are also being projected to rise around 1.43 million ton. So the one of the greatest concern is the rise of the greenhouse gas emissions. So considering the India's ambitious net zero goal target, move to the next, please. Indian maritime sector has taken proactive measures under different mission mode programs, including Maritime India Vision 2047. This India's maritime sector is aiming at achieving this net zero goal by 2070, which is well in sync with the India's Panchamitra goal. Indian maritime sector is also aiming to make the net zero all the ports by 2047. The strategy that Indian maritime sector is aiming at for adopting a portfolio of green fuel molecules, having said that these are the gaseous and the liquid molecules, biofuels, liquid and gaseous biofuels, green hydrogen produced from water to hydrogen and the biomass to hydrogen through the biochemical and the thermochemical pathway, green ammonia, LNG, bio-LNG, and synthetic fuels, because it is apparent that one of the constraint for green fuels is the ample sustainable supply chain of the raw materials. So India's green fuel strategy is aiming at adopting all form of green fuels, including biofuels, produced from the different input raw materials produced through different pathways. So going forward, next slide, please. So this, move to the next, please. The biofuel portfolio molecules of India's energy basket is focusing on use of liquid and gaseous biofuels. As I mentioned, Indian maritime sector is playing a pivotal role in green initiatives. One of the key initiatives undertaken by Ministry of Ports and Shipping and Waterway of India through establishment of National Center of Green Ports and Shipping. This center was established at TERI, and The major ports are collaborating with Terry, and Terry is working in coordination with ports and Ministry of Shipping and Director General of Shipping. The diverse activities those are being undertaken under this center is adoption of green fuels, biofuels, along with other renewable energy forms. I will be focusing on the initiatives undertaken by DGS and MOPSW in adopting biofuels, because how biofuels can play a key role and what are those biofuels. In short term, they can help in blending with different proportion with the marine fuel. Go to the next, please. So, previous slide, yeah. So, different raw materials which are used for this liquid biofuels. For the short-term goal, Indian maritime sector is aiming at use of liquid biofuel blending. To having said that, biodiesels are the liquid biofuel which are compatible to for blending with the marine fuel in short term, and because of their technical properties, they are compatible to blend in different proportions. However, as per the regulations or guideline, it is apparent that one must see for adoption of these biofuels by blending with the ships, because one of the major concern is the impact of this biofuel blend trials in the engines. So different liquid biofuels which are being seen to offer as a potential advantages for blending with marine fuel is the alcohol-based biofuels, the bioethanol and biobutanol. These are the fermentation fuels, can be produced from carbohydrate-based organic fractions, including biomass, and the gaseous biofuels like bioliquefied natural gas, biomethane produced biomethane or bio-CNG, and biohydrogen. And oil-based biofuels are mainly biodiesel and HPO. The different raw materials that we can use for biodiesel is the Indian National Biofuel Policy, which was rolled out in 2018. It is focusing for use of the diverse raw materials as feedstock, including first generation to second generation and third generation feedstock for all liquid and gaseous biofuels. Like we mentioned, India is promoting green ship initiatives. So liquid and gaseous biofuels are being seen to play a key role in contributing for reduction of this greenhouse emission by blending with different proportions with the existing marine fuels. And biodiesel in the immediate run, go to the next slide, please. The biodiesel properties which are almost similar or mimic with the petroleum diesels, that's why it is gaining momentum as a immediate drop in biofuel to blend with the marine fuel. So we can see the characteristics of the petroleum-based diesel and the renewable and the biodiesel properties, and these properties ensures for blending of this biodiesel with marine fuel. And go to the next, please. So different pathways those are being adopted for production of biodiesel and HPO, and like renewable diesel is produced for the hydro treatment, but in the immediate run, the biodiesel, flame-based biodiesel and hydro-treated vegetable oil are being used. In order to ensure for blending implementation for any biofuel with the marine fuel, it is essential to do some case studies. So, Director General of Shipping in India and in coordination with the guidance and the directive from the MOPSW, have taken very proactive and green initiative roles, and they have issued this merchant shipping notice in 2023. That notice is highlighted for the use of the different flame-based biodiesel, and the hydro-treated vegetable oil for blending with the marine fuel, mostly the VLSFO and this NGO and MDO. And this merchant shipping notice also very clearly directed for the requirement of the technical properties of this biofuel, having said that this flashpoint is one of the key factor one should focus on. That flashpoint of this biofuel should not be less than 60. And another major aspect is the issuing of the sustainability certificate that will ensure for the fuel quality. So under the directive of the Indian Director General of Shipping and These case studies were done by two of the major shipping industries of India. It is Ambuja Shipping Services Limited and the Great Eastern Shipping Company Limited. So they have done these case studies using B30 blend, and they've also the flame-based biodiesel and the HPO, both the biofuels were used for blending in different proportions. And go to the next slide, please. And these ships were run after two ships were used by Ambuja Shipping Services Limited. They have done this blending with different proportions, with starting from B20 to B50, and even they've done with the B100 as well. So one of the key measures we look at when we blend with this biodiesel with marine diesel, their impact basically on the engine performance, and they've observed that the blending of this biodiesel with marine fuel could help in enhancing this brake thermal efficiency. This could also contribute significantly for the reduction of the specific fuel oil, and also could contribute for the reduction of the CO2 and the NOx. And also the overall net combustion efficiency was also observed to be increased. Similarly, another case study was conducted by, move to the next please, the Great Eastern Company. They have done a blending of this very low sulfur fuel, sulfur oil, with eco-based biodiesel, and similar observations are being reported by Great Eastern Shipping. The results and analysis, they have shown that this blending of this B20 blending with VLSFO could significantly contribute for the emission reduction of CO2 up to, and also it did not impact on the engine performance, so which is one of the major key factor, highlighting that the immediate compatibility of the biodiesel liquid fuel blending with the marine fuel. And they've also, the right side picture shows that how this blending fuel could help in enhancing the performance efficiency and reduction of the NOx. Move to the next, please. So based on these case studies, because for adoption of any biofuel or any fuel blending in any sector, it is apparent that the case studies or the blend trial studies should be done initially, and these study reports are being submitted to Bureau of Indian Standard. Bureau of Indian Standard is the certification body for the standard in India, and these study reports were submitted to Bureau of Indian Standard in coordination with the Indian Director General of Shipping, MOPSW stakeholders, the fuel suppliers, and the shipping industries. Move to the next, please. So based on these studies, move to the next, please. Based on these studies, DIS has indicated for or took proactive role for harmonization of this biodiesel blending with marine diesel standard in India, considering which is in sync or in line with the ISO 8217/2024 standard that was rolled out by in May 2024. So this notification clearly indicated for the use of the use of the 100% flame-based biodiesel, as well as the distillate, 7 categories of distillate fuels and 5 categories of residual fuels. So now the next step is establishment of the bunkering, because like I mentioned, for adoption of blending, one key role is to do the survey, extensive survey for the fuel availability and the compatibility or the raw material availability to produce that fuel. Number 2 is the case study, pilot blend trial case studies, and then advocating or harmonizing the standard in Indian country level, because in India we are aiming at for adoption, so it is essential also to harmonize the ISO standard, considering in line with the points highlighted in this ISO 28217. Then the next step is biofuel bunkering. So going forward, move to the next please. India's Director General of Shipping has taken proactive role. This blend biofuel blend trial case studies were done under the directive of DGS in coordination with the Indian Register of Shipping. Then going forward, India also made a very comprehensive analysis of the biofuel portfolio, gaseous and liquid biofuel portfolio, considering the points or the highlighted in the national biofuel policy as well as the raw material availability. Going forward, DGS has taken a very proactive role in coordination with the stakeholders and the shipping industries, IRS, and considering including is to draft a biofuel bunkering guideline. This guideline is being published in 2nd July 2025. So based on the previous activities undertaken in India maritime sector, harmonizing the standard and the blend trial studies, this guideline is now being published. This guideline provides the regulatory framework, right from the type of biofuel to the biofuel quality, or to the providing this sustainability certification that will ensure for the quality of the fuel. That also highlights the different required parameters of biofuel or the biodiesel. So based on this biofuel bunkering, now India is proactively looking forward for implementation of this biofuel blending currently at B20, B30 level, considering which is in line with the ISO 217/2024 standard. So proactive coordination is being done among the stakeholders, TGS, IRS, SCI, and the Ministry of Shipping. So these are the portfolio of green initiatives very taken in an aggressive manner by Indian maritime sector. Go to the next, please. So when we say this biofuel bunkering, that India must look at sustainable supply of these biofuel molecules. So as we know that India's bioeconomy has shown a significant growth over the previous decade by 16-fold, and 50% of this bioeconomy is mostly attributed to the bioindustrial that involves the biofuel sector. So go to the next, please. This is mainly attributed to the vast biomass resources that India, the country, is having. The portfolio of raw materials that India is looking at for biodiesel production or currently is being used for biodiesel production is the used cooking oil from the edible oil, and also so as you can see that currently around 412 million metric ton of this biodiesel produced from this eco-based, and which is being projected to go further high at by 2030 over 550 million metric ton. And the right side, the topmost figure shows that the biodiesel potential from eco in crore liters. Sorry, it's in 4 liters. The used cooking oil availability in over last several years is being projected here. The one of the major constant is that when we look at for production, there is also a competition for the fleet for the biodiesel, because biodiesel, of course, is a drop-in fuel for maritime transportation sector, but so diesel also finding great application for road transportation. Also going forward, it will compete with the HEPA production through SAF production through the HEPA pathway. So one must look at other diverse feedstock and other diverse portfolio of biofuel molecules. So India is also, go to the next, please. So like India's national biofuel policy is very well highlighting the broad spectrum feed uses. So that also highlights on the use of the advanced the third generation feed, the algae biomass as a feed for advanced biofuel production. In this sector, India has also is taking proactive measure and achieved significant development in marine algae cultivation in the coastal site. So this first of its kind, this large-scale marine algae cultivation in 100,000 photobioreactor, specially sunlight distributed photobioreactor, is being established in Mumbai coast. And this facility can produce algae biomass using this marine water. So India has a great potential to implement this algal cultivation across the coast. It has around 1.5 billion hectare coastal area across the coast. So this is one of the other advanced or the third generation feedstock that can be used for producing this biodiesel. It contains around 15 to 20% liquid fractions, and the other fractions, to make it cost economically viable, the other fractions containing carbohydrate and other residual material is being used to produce portfolio of other biocommodities, including other bio-oils, other biofuels like bio-oil, then bioethanol, so that this overall process can help in achieving the cost economic viability of this biodiesel from algae. Go to the next, please. Coming to the other liquid, the gaseous, the liquid bioalcohol-based biobutanol. Biobutanol is also gaining momentum, and several studies are being done in overseas countries as per the literature. So biobutanol at a proportion of 10% can be used as a drop-in fuel for blending with the marine fuel, and it has also the properties of this biobutanol are also very much incompatible for blending with this marine fuel, but a proportion of 10%. This blending found to be not impacting on the engine performance and also helps significantly in the reduction of the greenhouse gas. Bioethanol, like mentioned, few studies were done elsewhere, which shows that up to 7% bioethanol can be blended with the marine fuel. However, going forward for blending proportion above 7% would be requiring these additives like ethyl acetate. So to adapt this bioalcohols blending in marine fuel, one needs to follow the similar strategies like it is being done with the other, the previous liquid biodiesel molecule that I have mentioned. So one must also consider for technical feasibility and the impact of this blended fuel by running the ships for a few months and see the GHG emission reduction potential on site, and then harmonize the standards considering the ISO 817-2024 standard guidelines, and then one can go for the adoption of this blending of this biofuel molecules. Go to the next, please. So India's biofuel policy has significantly contributed for ethanol program. So ethanol production over previous decade has gone significantly, has shown a very upright trend. So the another aspect is the availability of the biomass. India has around 228 to 30 million metric ton of surplus biomass, agriculture residue biomass, which is providing a very potential source of the raw material for producing different type of biofuels, so that the India's bioenergy basket will encompass with the various liquid and gaseous biofuels. Similarly, for the biomethane production, India has already rolled out the Satat program that is focusing on commissioning of at least 5,000 biogas plants. So that will contribute for the biomethane and bio-CNG production. So the bioenergy basket is focusing on technology development, adoption and commissioning and implementation and production of various biofuels in different scales. Go to the next, please. Similarly, for biomethanol, yes, biomethanol is also gaining momentum. So one of the significant aspects for adopting biomethanol is that integrating this biomethanol production with the carbon capture, biogenic CO2 carbon capture especially, because CO2 is being generated from during bioethanol production as well as from during biogas production. Those CO2 one can consider for integrating for capture and convert to the biomethanol by using this green hydrogen. So this overall, there are different pathways one can follow for this production of biomethanol using different bio-based resources through fermentation combination of biochemical and thermochemical pathway. But one of the crucial, the significant advantage will come when one can consider for integrating bioethanol production with the biogenic CO2 capture. So this is also being currently explored, although these are being at nascent stage. Go to the next, please. So these are a portfolio of molecules that I wanted to highlight. Go to the next, please. Yeah, thank you. I would be happy to respond to any queries that you may. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Subudhi. This was very, very insightful and very, very helpful to all of us. And we regret the glitch that has happened. I would now like to open to questions. I think Mr. McManus has a question for you, which is how would ethanol and butanol be blended? Would this have to be a light distillate specific engine?
Well, this is this question for me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So, like I mentioned, these studies are not being case studies are not being done yet in India. The data that I have presented is based on the secondary study data, but studies are already being done and it is available. Normally, butanol has a higher compatibility blending with the diesel compared to the ethanol. But some of the studies in a small scale lab studies are also being shown that ethanol can be blended up to 7% without requiring any additive. But when we go for higher proportion of ethanol blending with marine diesel, it would be requiring ethyl acetate. Those studies are being done in a nascent stage.
Understood. It is, I think there's one question to you. Do I have you with me?
Yes. Is
Great.
my audio still clear?
Yes, it's still clear. So Maersk is publicly struggling with methanol engine reliability issues requiring excessive maintenance, and the marine fuel standard ISO 8217 still has no provision for biofuels after years of development. If a shipping giant like Maersk can't make alternative fuels work reliably, how realistic are the industry's ambitious biofuel adoption timelines and technical challenges? And maybe if Camille, you're also here, if you could also answer this question post it would be great.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you for this question. I think that it is a very common concern that for marine biofuels there are a lot of challenges to adoption. And actually about the point on ISO 8217 not having something specific for the biocomponent, the standards for the biocomponent. Actually, for the latest version, for the 2024 version, there actually has been some provisions on certain quality standards for the FAME component, the fatty acid methyl ester components, or any biofuel component. If it's B100, there are certain additional tests included in the 2024 version compared to the 2017 version. So I think given how that there is more bunkering of marine biofuels now, standards have been updating to factor in this interest, and also more studies are being developed to understand what's the quality and what standards should be imposed for the biocomponent for marine biofuel blends. So I think that eventually we should with more tests and more experimentation, we should reach a point where the challenges would be alleviated, at least to a certain extent, in terms of technical challenges.
Understood. I think there's one more question for you. That marine biofuels cost up to twice as much as conventional fuels, with minimum selling price between 2.36 to $4.458 per gallon equivalent. Given shipping's razor thin profit margin and the fact that regulatory carbon pricing remains inadequate, who's actually going to pay for this transition?
Yeah, so I think price cost is a very also another huge concern as well. So I would think that for Singapore, a lot of the demand is coming from container lines, from car carriers. So they're all quite end consumer facing, and all of this the green premium are either requested by certain clients, customers, or as part of their programs that would I would say that likely these costs are being passed on to the end consumers. And also I think for certain ports like Rotterdam, they have renewable fuel credits, or the HBEs. So to a certain extent, some of this costs also being absorbed through governmental funding in a sense, or through a certain credit system that would help alleviate the cost burden for the ship owners.
Got it. Tom, do you have any point of view on this question? In case you're still with us.
Yeah, I mean, I think you know, biofuels, it is by their nature, tend to cost more. That's in some sense. And since the demand is now going up and there's limited availability, or the availability is expanding at a lower rate than maybe the market demand, it will encourage additional capacity to come into the market. But additional capacity to come into the market, I mean, it takes, if you're building a new production plant, it actually takes typically 5 years by the time you go through your permitting process and get the financing sorted out for that new production and so on. So it takes a bit of time for the supply side to react to the increase in demand. That's what I would say.
Understood. Dr. Subudhi, I hope I still have you. How viable are biofuels as a sustainable alternative to conventional marine fuels, and what challenges do you see in the large-scale adoption?
In the short term, because biofuel, considering the drop in fuel quality, maritime sector is looking at for blending. One of the major challenges is the raw materials. That's why it is important to look at diverse biofuel molecules for adoption. Like we said initially, because biodiesel properties are mimicking with the petroleum diesel now. So as a first and in a short-term goal, biodiesel adoption can contribute. But going forward, only looking at biodiesel will not meet the required demand. So that's why it is very apparent to look at multiple fuels in the short term, gaseous and the other bioalcohol and the liquid molecules. In the long term, India is looking at adopting green hydrogen, ammonia, and LNG.
Understood. Thank you, Dr. Subudhi. I hope that answers your question. Camille, if I have you, there is a question for you. Okay. It says that the IMO's draft green fuels law could actually increase emissions by 270 million tons in 2030 compared to doing nothing, as per an analysis by the Transport and Environment Analysis. How do you respond to this criticism that current marine biofuel policies are worse for the climate than maintaining status quo with fossil fuels?
Thank you. I'm actually not aware of this statement, so it would be worth looking into it into more detail. Yeah, I think today the main concerns or questions around biofuels is one about price. This is also about supply volumes, and it's about sustainability, and in particular land use change, and this latter aspect on sustainability and also other sustainability criteria or aspects are being assessed in a manner that was deemed appropriate by the IMO, which is by a group of experts, by a group of scientists that are acting in their individual capacity, independently, based on the best available literature and science, to actually help reviewing proposals for emission factors for the different fuel pathways, and that includes biofuels. And we know these are complex topics, and that other jurisdictions are also looking into issues such as land use change, and we really want to aim at a harmonized and a consistent framework globally, because this is probably also a barrier to the uptake of biofuels. But yeah, this is taken extremely seriously by all our member states and by the organization as a whole. So I'd be happy to look into this report, but I haven't had the chance so far.
Understood. I think we still have a bunch of questions, but we're also at time with our speakers. What I will do is we will be hosting the webinar recording on our website at biofuelsalliance.com. Should be up in some time. And we will also be sharing the speaker presentations for everyone's reference. I would urge all of you to please reach out to us, the secretariat at biofuelsalliance.com, and we'll be happy to relay your questions to speakers and connect you to them. In case the speaker presentations include their contact details, you may kindly reach out to them as well. In the interest of time of our speakers, I would now like to end the webinar. My apologies for the questions that we could not answer. Rest assured, we will also try and create a platform on the Biofuels Alliance website where you could ask questions to experts and continue this exchange of knowledge. I earnestly thank all the speakers today. It was a great session. And more than that, I would like to thank our patient attendees for listening to all of this. I know this was also slightly technical and very, very related to how we're looking forward at marine biofuels. So thank you everyone for your time. Greatly appreciate your interest. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.